Welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined by Steve Miksta, founder of Oppty Unlimited, where he helps organizations unlock growth through leadership alignment, strategic clarity, and building opportunity-driven cultures. Steve brings a perspective that is incredibly relevant right now, especially as companies are trying to figure out how to navigate technology shifts, artificial intelligence, and changing expectations around leadership and growth. Steve, welcome to the show. Glad you're here.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Mark. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Okay. So, Steve, let's start at the beginning. Every leader has a path that shaped how they see organizations and growth. Walk me through your journey. How did you get into this work of helping organizations become more intentional about leadership and culture?
So, yeah, I guess growing up, I always just had a pull to the business world and always knew I wanted to be successful in the business space. And when I got out of school, I fell into the mortgage industry and really immediately saw the inefficiencies that existed within the workplace. And as I started to leverage technology to create more efficiencies within my business in order to scale and grow my business, I started to realize the need to enroll people in my vision. And I worked with a number of coaches that assisted me in establishing a vision, building a culture, and identifying how to align the individual visions of the people that worked with me, really just the power in aligning those visions towards my vision, right? When we're all aligned, everybody's excited about where we're going, and it makes work a lot more fun, and we tend to be a lot more productive when we know the value that ultimately is going to come from our hard work. So that kind of put the foundation in place, and then I went and built and implemented technology within a mortgage company, and towards the end of my time just wanted to work with other organizations who were ready to embrace and willing to think differently and be more intentional in what the organization could achieve, and identifying how they could help empower the people in the organization to help them get there. And that's where Oppty started, and Oppty stands for opportunity, because I just believe that we are stepping into a new world where there literally is endless opportunity. And our mission is to provide organizations and their people with a framework to access this abundance that is available to us.
Steve, was there a moment where you realized leadership development needed to be more human-centered?
I mean, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, leadership is human centered, right? To lead other people is getting them to want to be a part of what you're building, and that's a human attraction, right? And we lose sight of that a lot in this technology driven world. And that's where we're really trying to reawaken these organizations to it's the people that matters. It's the people that ultimately can explain a new interpretation of a future reality and be able to say, no, this is where we want to go. And this is how we're going to get there. And here's what we need the people to do in the organization to get us there faster. And technology is just the tool to accelerate that progress.
One thing you said when we first talked really stayed with me. You mentioned that many people spend their day reacting, responding to problems, emails, tasks, instead of intentionally designing how work should happen. What does that reactive pattern look like inside an organization today?
So before I get there, I want to tell a quick story that I think resonates with all of this. My two boys, I have two boys, 7 and 5. They go to Acton Academy. I don't know, are you familiar with Acton? So it's a
I'm not.
Montessori type school, right? And they're just a different mentality and mindset in providing a framework that encourages kids to follow their own hero's journey. and pursue a life where they're continuously learning, right? And embracing that mentality. And when I went into our local Acton here in Phoenix, I went to a second grade or basically like second grade classroom. There's nine kids standing around the table in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're mapping out and identifying what work they're going to be doing in the afternoon, because it's not an instructor led, like it's very hands off, and the kids kind of create their own plan and agenda to complete the coursework. And when I saw this, I was with a guy from work, and I turned to him, I said, holy, our clients need to go back to second grade. And the reality is that we're living in a different world, and distractions consume our day. And the typical workforce and employee comes into the office in the morning, checks their email, and reacts the rest of the day. And at the end of
Hmm.
the day, you say, hey, how was your day? And there's not enough time in the day, right? How many people say that? But the reality is they're not intentional in the most productive work they should be doing, and getting clarity in, okay, this is where I bring the most value to the organization. I'm going to block 2 hours a day to do that work. And in order to do that work more effectively, they need the data and information at the tips of their fingers. And this is the problem that we solve with a lot of these organizations, is they don't have that structure. They don't have that intention in place, and they don't have the data in place. So even if that person wanted to do that work, he ends up spending the first 40 minutes of that time tracking down the data and information they need to actually do the work. So it's getting clarity in, where do we want to go as an organization? Who needs to do what? And what tools and information need to be readily accessible, right? To allow them to actually follow through on those intentions. And that's what, over time, it's that day in and day out, people following through on the intentions and the more productive work. That's what creates this exponential progress in the long term for these organizations.
Okay. Steve, why do you think so many organizations remain stuck in reactive mode?
Honestly, I think it's just a lack of awareness. In a lot of cases, it's a lack of what I just described. We grew up where intention was not nearly as important as it is today. We didn't have the distractions that we have today. And just by bringing awareness to that reality of, our people go through an 8-hour workday and like may or may not do anything that is truly like productive, or aligned with their best skill set, right? Like you look at salespeople in most organizations, it's like those salespeople should be selling. That's where they should be spending their day, and they should have the data and the information and all of the, operational fulfillment of sales. Like none of that should be on their plate. But the reality is that's where they spend half their day. And not only is it time consuming, it also is energy draining. So by the time they get through all that redundant work and follow up and stuff that they shouldn't have to be doing, now there's no energy left for them to sell. So they put it off to the next day, and then that's just the nature of how we work. We aren't aware of a better way or a better system, and there's just no intent to truly change it.
Okay. And Steve, if someone listening today feels like they're reacting all day long, what is the first step towards becoming more intentional?
Just making a commitment to do it.
Hmm.
And whether that's time blocking, obviously, like that's where we come into organizations, is like make this commitment and let us hold you accountable to it. Like let us ensure that you've got time blocked each week to meet with us and talk through how can we become more intentional, right? And then let's identify who in your organization could also meet with us and become more intentional. And that's how we typically will get involved in these organizations, is like they need someone guiding them through that process to become more intentional, or it just gets lost and things don't change.
I like it. Steve, you also made an analogy that I thought was very powerful. You compared today's artificial intelligence movement to the introduction of the assembly line, where people initially feared machines would replace them. Walk us through that comparison.
Yeah, this is, in reality, this is every great technological evolution goes through this process where we introduce machines, we get scared we're going to lose our jobs. And then as time goes on, we begin to open up to the reality that these machines do that work better than we do. And then we awaken to this reality that we're human, and what we are uniquely capable of doing is innovating, dreaming, imagining things that don't exist, and explaining what needs to happen in order for us to get there. Is being able to identify and explain these things that can't be seen, right? Like we're able to envision a future that doesn't exist and imagine what each person in the organization needs to do to do it. And we know people, we know what people do well. Like it's this whole human part of it, right? That just cannot be done by machines. And we've proven time and time again that we will find a way to create a better feel. Like this is what creates that next leap in productivity and performance and compensation. And that's where I truly believe we're stepping into an abundant world where there's no limits to what we can achieve together. But it requires alignment in our intentions and transparency to the actual outcomes that we're looking to produce. And when there's that transparency and intentionality, it accelerates progress towards that vision. Because again, if we're all aligned and we all want our own individual vision to be achieved, the more we can align with other people, the more powerful that becomes and the more we can achieve together.
Okay. And Steve, why do you think people fear technology before they understand it?
I think, and I've used this explanation before, but if you, today, this moment in time today is similar to like when Galileo invented the telescope, right? When he invented the telescope, we all believed we were at the center of the universe. Same kind of thing. It took us time to accept our place in this enormous universe. And as we did that, again, we opened ourselves up to this new reality of what's possible. And with artificial intelligence, it's that same fear, right? It's the realization that our individual intelligence is much smaller than we ever could have imagined. But as embrace that and look at how we can leverage artificial intelligence, what we're going for is really a collective intelligence, right? Where we align the intentions and skills and dreams of humans, right? Amplified with AI. And we reach this new collective intelligence that just is unimaginable from where we've been in the past. And and if we can get people focused on the people side of it and working with each other to create a new future and a new reality, it's a very exciting time to be in the space that we're in and to be a part of that shift.
Okay. You also mentioned that much of your company's growth historically came through referrals, which is true for many consulting firms. But now you're entering a phase where growth has to expand beyond that. What signals told you it was time to grow beyond referrals?
I mean, it's just scale and speed, right? And a desire to help more organizations. I mean, I think that really is the big driver is more people need to experience this. And if Oppty is going to be successful in fulfilling our mission and vision, we need more people to awaken to this reality and join us. And so that's really I'd say the main driver in getting people to understand our message and what we do and open up to this idea of what's going to be possible in the future.
Okay. And how are you thinking about standing out in a crowded marketplace?
Yeah. Obviously, still leveraging the experiences of our existing customers, right? Being able to lean on them to help us communicate what we do in a way that resonates with the marketplace. And then I think we're already doing it in just our focus on the human. And human intelligence and bringing awareness to the tech. Obviously, AI is everywhere, but AI doesn't create the future. People do.
And Steve, you shared something in our earlier conversation that change happens in two ways, either when pain becomes too great or when people become inspired to do something greater. How do
Uh-huh.
you see that playing out inside organizations today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, we're we're kind of hitting both of those dynamics right now, right?
Mhm.
Where the overwhelm is just too much, so they know they need to do something, and really the lifespan of these organizations, right? If they don't learn how to embrace and leverage technology and AI, there's a real threat of their business not being profitable enough to stay in business, and opening them up to this greater opportunity to me is where it's a win for everyone in the organization, because until we have organizations starting to do that, and new jobs getting created, right, that aren't the old jobs that are today, like there's just a transformation that needs to occur in order to get organizations being more intentional, like having them re-envision the roles and what people should be doing in the organization. And this creates an upward lift for everybody, because people end up making more money while the organization becomes more profitable. And that's a lot more exciting than coming into work, doing your 9 to 5, and having really no, like meaning or purpose behind your role, and just being tired at the end of the day. When we shift that to a meaningful role and leveraging the skills that what we do well, um, it inspires the workforce, and that's what leads to more productive organizations too.
Okay. And let's unpack that a little. Okay. And I have two questions. What skills are becoming more valuable? Is the first question. And the second question is, what habits need to disappear?
I mean, the most valuable skill anymore is curiosity and
Hmm.
open-mindedness and the willingness to learn. I think there's huge potential in the organizations we work with, where they've got younger people who are just open-minded and willing to learn, and those people can accelerate past these mid-level managers who their vision of work is like holding people accountable to doing their job. Like it's that mid-level management position, to me, is at the most risk, because it's like that role is no longer needed when you're inspiring people to work more productively, and you no longer need a person overseeing them when they come to the realization that, okay, if I work 4 hours a day more productively, I'm going to do my entire role and be successful in what I'm doing. And this, I think, the shift that's going to continue to happen in the workplace is just performance based compensation. When we look at the future, I think even we look at, okay, AI is going to eliminate all these jobs. Well, do we actually need all those jobs? Like our current vision of work is 40 hours a week. In the future, what if we only need to work 20 hours a week and still make the same amount of money or more? So I think there's just a lot of assumptions that get challenged when we begin to think that the future of work doesn't have to be the same it's always been.
Steve, you mentioned you're writing a book. What is the central message behind it?
So the book is Thinking and Outcomes, and it draws on some of my personal experience. And when I was 36 years old, I was diagnosed with Asperger's, and that's taken some time to process. But what I've learned through that is that my brain has a natural tendency to think in outcomes. So when we have ideas in the workplace, like I'm immediately going to, okay, what outcome validates progress? And what are the specific metrics that validate we're moving in the right direction? And in most of these meetings, when I bring this stuff up, people look at me like I'm speaking a different language, and that's fine, because I am, and I understand that. But in this new world where we're trying to achieve collective intelligence, there's a need for everyone to be heard and their ideas and opinions to be understood and included in what we're going to do in the organization. And what outcomes provide is a constraint that allows diverse perspectives to establish shared meaning in what each of them needs to do. So if we have a clearly defined outcome, like now as humans, we can collaborate around who needs to do what in order to produce that outcome, and how are we going to measure progress towards achieving that. And that's the premise, and then we'll also be introducing our framework and methodology around how we assist organizations in accessing collective intelligence, through a process of empowering people and establishing a shared organizational language from which they can collaborate to make progress actually meaningful.
Okay. Steve, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate the perspective you shared, especially around intentional leadership and designing organizations instead of reacting to them. For listeners who want to learn more about your work or connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
So website is optyunlimited.com. And then as far as connecting person on LinkedIn, is probably the best. We have a YouTube channel. We're going to be putting more stuff on there, but website, LinkedIn, probably the best ways, and obviously email. But yeah.
Okay. And for our listeners, we will be putting Steve's contact information in the description below this podcast. Thanks again, Steve. I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate it.